Your soulmate needs to talk to you immediately. Something big just happened. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because your soulmate recently experienced something they never expected. Not the kind of thing that makes headlines. Not the kind of thing that people immediately notice. Not the kind of thing that changes the outside world overnight. Something quieter. Something deeper. Something that happened entirely within their heart. And listen to this. The day started normally. Nothing unusual. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that suggested a major breakthrough was waiting around the corner. They woke up. Followed their routine. Handled responsibilities. Focused on the tasks in front of them. Everything seemed ordinary. Yet beneath the surface, something felt different. A strange feeling. A subtle feeling. A feeling they couldn't quite explain. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes the most important changes begin long before we understand what they mean. Your soulmate was experiencing one of those changes. And listen to this. For several days, they had felt unusually reflective. Certain thoughts kept returning. Certain memories kept appearing. Certain lessons kept asking for attention. At first, they ignored them. After all, life is busy. There is always another responsibility. Another obligation. Another reason to postpone self-reflection. But eventually, those thoughts became impossible to ignore. Because your heart needs this right now, because some truths become louder every time we try to silence them. Your soulmate was beginning to hear those truths. And listen to this. One evening, after a long day, they finally found a quiet moment alone. No distractions. No interruptions. No expectations. Just silence. And in that silence, something unexpected happened. A memory surfaced. Not a dramatic memory. Not an emotional memory. A simple memory. A small moment from the past. The kind of moment most people would forget. Yet somehow it carried meaning. And as they reflected on that memory, another one appeared. Then another. Then another. Before long, they found themselves looking back on experiences they hadn't thought about in years. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful lessons often return when we're finally ready to understand them. Your soulmate was ready. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more a pattern began to emerge. Every important lesson in their life had arrived unexpectedly. Every major period of growth had begun with uncertainty. Every breakthrough had started with confusion. Suddenly, experiences that once seemed disconnected started fitting together. Like pieces of a puzzle. Like chapters of a story. Like clues leading toward a larger truth. And that realization stopped them completely. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding often arrives all at once after years of unnoticed preparation. Your soulmate was experiencing that understanding. And listen to this. For a long time, they believed growth happened during big moments. Major achievements. Major decisions. Major milestones. Yet now they saw something different. Growth had happened during ordinary days. Quiet days. Difficult days. Unexpected days. The moments that seemed insignificant at the time had often been the moments that changed them most. That realization felt powerful. Because suddenly they appreciated their journey in a completely new way. Because your heart needs this right now, because wisdom often hides inside experiences we once overlooked. Your soulmate was discovering hidden wisdom. And listen to this. As the night continued, another realization emerged. A realization that felt impossible to ignore. For years, they had spent so much time focusing on where they were going that they rarely stopped to appreciate how far they had already come. They focused on future goals, future plans, future possibilities. Always looking ahead. Always searching for the next step. Yet now they found themselves looking back with gratitude. Gratitude for lessons. Gratitude for growth. Gratitude for challenges that helped shape them. Gratitude for experiences that taught resilience. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude changes the way we see our entire story. Your soulmate's story was changing. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the clearer everything became. The big thing that happened wasn't an external event. It wasn't something someone said. It wasn't something someone did. It was a shift in perspective. A breakthrough of awareness. A moment where they finally saw their life through a new lens. And once they saw it, they couldn't go back. Because your heart needs this right now, because certain realizations permanently change the way we understand ourselves. Your soulmate had reached one of those realizations. And listen to this. By the end of the night, they felt different. Lighter. Calmer. More grateful. More aware. The questions that once felt overwhelming seemed smaller. The uncertainty that once felt frightening seemed manageable. The future no longer felt like something they had to control. Instead, it felt like something they could trust. And that trust created peace. Real peace. The kind of peace that comes from understanding. Because your heart needs this right now, because peace often begins when we stop fighting every unanswered question. Your soulmate was finally finding peace. And as they sat quietly before going to sleep, one final thought echoed through their heart. Maybe the biggest thing that happened wasn't around me. Maybe it happened inside me. Maybe I finally started seeing the lessons that were there all along. And maybe that's why everything suddenly feels different. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because after the quiet realization that began changing everything, your soulmate found themselves unable to stop thinking about it. The feeling remained. The questions remained. The awareness remained. And no matter how busy they became, something inside them kept asking for attention. And listen to this. The next morning felt different. Not because the world had changed. Not because circumstances had changed. Not because some dramatic event had occurred overnight. The difference was inside them. They woke up carrying a new perspective. A perspective that made ordinary moments feel meaningful. A perspective that made familiar experiences look completely different. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes the biggest transformations happen so quietly that nobody notices except the person experiencing them. Your soulmate was experiencing one of those transformations. And listen to this. As the day continued, they started noticing patterns they had never noticed before. Patterns hidden inside memories. Patterns hidden inside lessons. Patterns hidden inside experiences that once seemed unrelated. At first, the connections appeared small. Almost insignificant. But the more they reflected, the more obvious everything became. Every challenge had taught something. Every setback had revealed something. Every unexpected twist had contributed something valuable. Nothing had been random. Nothing had been wasted. Everything had carried meaning. Because your heart needs this right now, because life often makes sense only when we step back far enough to see the entire picture. Your soulmate was finally stepping back. And listen to this. For years, they had judged certain chapters of their life harshly. They viewed some experiences as mistakes. Some experiences as failures. Some experiences as disappointments. Yet now they were seeing those same chapters differently. Now they saw lessons. Growth. Strength. Wisdom. Patience. Resilience. Qualities that never would have developed without those experiences. And suddenly they understood something remarkable. The moments they once wished had never happened had often been the moments that shaped them most. Because your heart needs this right now, because some of life's greatest gifts arrive disguised as challenges. Your soulmate was finally recognizing those gifts. And listen to this. As afternoon turned into evening, they found themselves revisiting old memories. Not to relive the past. Not to dwell on what had already happened. To understand it. To appreciate it. To learn from it. And the more they reflected, the more gratitude replaced confusion. The more understanding replaced frustration. The more wisdom replaced regret. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding transforms experiences in ways time alone cannot. Your soulmate was beginning to understand deeply. And listen to this. One memory in particular stood out. Not because it was dramatic. Because it carried a lesson they had overlooked for years. The lesson was simple. Growth rarely feels comfortable while it's happening. In fact, growth often feels like uncertainty. Like change. Like confusion. Like not knowing exactly where you're headed. And suddenly they realized something. Many of the moments they once feared were actually moments of transformation. They simply couldn't see it at the time. Because your heart needs this right now, because transformation often becomes visible only after we've already changed. Your soulmate could finally see how much they had changed. And listen to this. As evening arrived, another realization surfaced. A realization so simple that it almost seemed obvious. Yet somehow they had never fully appreciated it before. They realized that life wasn't happening to them. Life was teaching them. Every chapter. every challenge, every unexpected turn, every lesson. Everything was contributing to their understanding. Everything was helping them grow. Everything was helping them become wiser. And once they understood that, something inside them relaxed. Because your heart needs this right now, because peace often begins when we stop seeing life as an opponent and start seeing it as a teacher. Your soulmate had found a teacher in every experience. And listen to this. The discovery that left them speechless wasn't a secret. It wasn't hidden information. It wasn't something another person revealed. It was something they discovered for themselves. They discovered that many of the answers they had searched for were already present inside the lessons they had lived through. The wisdom was already there. The understanding was already there. The growth was already there. They simply hadn't paused long enough to recognize it. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes awareness is all that's needed to reveal a truth that has existed all along. Your soulmate had become aware. And listen to this. For the first time in a long while, they stopped asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and started asking, "What did this teach me?" That single shift changed everything. Because one question creates frustration. The other creates wisdom. One question searches for blame. The other searches for growth. One question keeps us stuck. The other helps us move forward. And your soulmate was finally moving forward with understanding. Because your heart needs this right now, because better questions often lead to better lives. Your soulmate was asking better questions. And listen to this. As night approached, they sat quietly and reflected on the day. Everything felt connected. Everything felt meaningful. Everything felt clearer than it had in a very long time. Not because every mystery had been solved. Because they finally understood that life isn't about eliminating uncertainty. It's about growing through it. And that realization changed their perspective forever. Because your heart needs this right now, because wisdom isn't knowing everything. Wisdom is learning from everything. Your soulmate was becoming wiser. And listen to this. Before ending the night, one final thought settled deeply into their heart. Maybe the answers I've been searching for weren't hidden. Maybe they've been appearing in every lesson, every challenge, and every experience all along. Maybe I just needed to slow down long enough to see them. And with that realization, they felt something unexpected. Relief. Gratitude. Peace. And a growing sense that something important had finally clicked into place. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because after the discovery that had been unfolding inside your soulmate, something unexpected happened. The realization didn't fade. It didn't weaken. It didn't disappear when they became busy. Instead, it grew stronger. With every passing day. With every quiet moment. With every opportunity to reflect. And listen to this. At first, they assumed the feeling would pass. Most people do. When an important realization arrives, many assume it's temporary. Just another thought. Just another emotional moment. just another passing insight. But this felt different. The more they tried returning to life exactly as it had been before, the more they realized they couldn't. Something fundamental had changed. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine understanding permanently changes the way we see our lives. Your soulmate was changing. And listen to this. One evening, they sat alone once again. The day was ending. The noise of the world had quieted. Responsibilities were finally finished. And for the first time all day, they had room to think. Really think. Not about schedules. Not about obligations. Not about expectations. About meaning. About growth. About the lessons that had quietly shaped them. And as they reflected, one realization became impossible to ignore. For years, they had been collecting wisdom without realizing it. Every challenge had taught something. Every setback had revealed something. Every disappointment had strengthened something. Every unexpected turn had contributed something valuable. The lessons were everywhere. They had simply never connected them together. Because your heart needs this right now, because life often teaches us long before we recognize we're learning. Your soulmate was finally recognizing it. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more emotional they became. Not because they were sad. Not because they were overwhelmed. Because they were grateful. Grateful for experiences they once questioned. Grateful for lessons they once resisted. Grateful for growth they never fully appreciated. Suddenly they could see how much they had changed. How much they had learned. How much stronger they had become. And that realization left them speechless. Because your heart needs this right now, because growth often happens so gradually that we fail to notice it until we look back. Your soulmate was finally looking back. And listen to this. As the night continued, another truth appeared. A truth that felt both simple and powerful. They realized they had spent too much time waiting for perfect clarity before moving forward. Waiting for certainty. Waiting for guarantees. Waiting for answers. Waiting for life to become predictable. Yet life was never designed to be completely predictable. Life was designed to be experienced. Learned from. Grown through. And once they accepted that truth, something inside them relaxed. Because your heart needs this right now, because acceptance creates peace where resistance creates stress. Your soulmate was finally accepting. And listen to this. The choice they never expected to make wasn't dramatic. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't something anyone else could see. It was a quiet internal decision. They decided to trust themselves more. To trust their growth. To trust the lessons life had already taught them. To stop treating themselves like someone who needed all the answers before taking the next step. And instead, to trust that wisdom would continue arriving as they moved forward. That decision changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because confidence isn't knowing everything. Confidence is trusting yourself even when you don't. Your soulmate was discovering real confidence. And listen to this. For years, they believed strength meant having certainty. Now they understood something different. Strength means continuing forward despite uncertainty. Strength means remaining open to learning. Strength means accepting that growth never ends. Strength means trusting the journey even when the destination isn't completely visible. And suddenly they realized they were stronger than they had ever given themselves credit for. Because your heart needs this right now, because self-awareness often reveals strengths we've overlooked for years. Your soulmate was discovering those strengths. And listen to this. The urgency they felt wasn't about an emergency. It wasn't about bad news. It wasn't about a secret. It was about awareness. The awareness that life is happening right now. The awareness that growth is happening right now. The awareness that wisdom is available right now. And that awareness made every moment feel more meaningful. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation grows when awareness grows. Your soulmate was becoming deeply appreciative. And listen to this. As midnight approached, they reflected on everything one final time. The memories. The lessons. The challenges. The growth. The understanding. Everything felt connected. Everything felt purposeful. Everything felt valuable. Even the experiences they once wished they could erase. Because now they understood that every chapter contributed something important. Every chapter helped shape who they were becoming. Every chapter had meaning. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning often becomes visible only after enough time has passed. Your soulmate could finally see it. And listen to this. Before the night ended, one final realization settled into their heart. A realization that felt like the key to everything they had been learning. It was this. I don't need to have my entire future figured out. I don't need perfect certainty. I don't need every answer today. I only need the willingness to keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving forward. And the moment they accepted that truth, something changed forever. The pressure faded. The fear softened. The uncertainty became lighter. And peace quietly took its place. Because your heart needs this right now, because peace often arrives the moment we stop demanding perfection from ourselves. Your soulmate had finally found that peace. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because after all the reflection, all the unexpected discoveries, all the memories that resurfaced, and all the lessons that suddenly started making sense, your soulmate finally arrived at the moment where everything connected. Not perfectly. Not completely. But enough. Enough to understand. Enough to grow. Enough to see their journey through completely different eyes. And listen to this. For a long time, they believed that the big moment they were waiting for would come from the outside world. A major event. A life-changing opportunity. A dramatic breakthrough. A sudden answer to every question they carried. But life surprised them. Because the biggest thing that happened wasn't outside them at all. It happened inside them. Quietly. Patiently. Without warning. Because your heart needs this right now, because the most powerful transformations often happen where nobody else can see them. Your soulmate was experiencing one of those transformations. And listen to this. As they looked back over everything they had been through, they noticed something remarkable. The person they were years ago and the person they were today were not the same. The fears were different. The priorities were different. The understanding was different. The perspective was different. For so long they focused on what still needed to happen. Yet now they could finally see how much had already happened. How much growth had already occurred. How much wisdom had already been gained. How much strength had already been built. And that realization left them speechless. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes we become so focused on where we're going that we forget to appreciate how far we've come. Your soulmate was finally appreciating the distance they had traveled. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more they realized something important. Every chapter had contributed something valuable. Even the difficult chapters. Especially the difficult chapters. The moments that felt unfair taught resilience. The moments that felt confusing taught patience. The moments that felt uncertain taught trust. The moments that felt painful taught compassion. Nothing had been wasted. Every experience had added something meaningful to their journey. Because your heart needs this right now, because life often teaches its greatest lessons through experiences we initially resist. Your soulmate was finally understanding those lessons. And listen to this. One evening, as they sat quietly reflecting, another truth appeared. A truth that instantly changed the way they viewed their entire life. They realized that they had spent years searching for certainty. Wanting guarantees. Wanting perfect answers. Wanting complete clarity. Yet every important step they ever took happened before certainty arrived. Every meaningful decision required faith. Every period of growth required courage. Every breakthrough required trust. And suddenly they understood something powerful. Certainty had never been the thing moving them forward. Courage had. Because your heart needs this right now, because courage matters most when certainty is unavailable. Your soulmate was finally recognizing their own courage. And listen to this. The big thing that happened wasn't one moment. It was hundreds of moments. Hundreds of lessons. Hundreds of small realizations slowly building toward a breakthrough. Like drops of water filling a bucket. Like pieces of a puzzle forming a complete picture. Like chapters becoming a story. Everything finally connected. And when it did, they felt something they hadn't felt in a very long time. Relief. Real relief. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding often removes burdens we didn't even realize we were carrying. Your soulmate was setting those burdens down. And listen to this. The questions that once haunted them no longer felt threatening. The uncertainty that once scared them no longer felt overwhelming. The future that once felt intimidating now felt exciting. Not because they suddenly knew what would happen. Because they finally trusted themselves to handle whatever happened. That trust changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because self-trust creates peace where doubt creates fear. Your soulmate had finally begun trusting themselves. And listen to this. As the night grew quieter, they reflected on one final question. The question that had been following them through this entire journey. What is the big thing that really happened? The answer came instantly. The big thing wasn't an event. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't a revelation about someone else. The big thing was awakening. Awakening to their own growth. Awakening to their own strength. Awakening to the wisdom hidden inside their experiences. Awakening to the realization that they were far more capable than they ever believed. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes the greatest discovery we make is discovering who we've become. Your soulmate had made that discovery. And listen to this. The more they sat with that truth, the more grateful they became. Grateful for every lesson. Grateful for every challenge. Grateful for every unexpected turn. Grateful for every experience that forced them to grow. Without those experiences, they wouldn't have become who they are today. Without those lessons, they wouldn't have developed the understanding they now carry. Without those challenges, they wouldn't have discovered their own resilience. Everything suddenly made sense. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude reveals meaning in places where frustration only sees problems. Your soulmate had found meaning. And listen to this. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped worrying about whether they were exactly where they were supposed to be. Instead, they appreciated where they were. They appreciated how much they had learned. They appreciated how much they had grown. They appreciated the person they were becoming. And that appreciation felt like freedom. Because your heart needs this right now, because freedom often begins when we stop fighting our journey and start embracing it. Your soulmate was finally embracing theirs. And listen to this. The final realization arrived quietly. Simple. Powerful. Impossible to forget. It was this. Life isn't asking me to have everything figured out. Life isn't asking me to know every answer. Life isn't asking me to predict every outcome. Life is asking me to learn. To grow. To trust. To appreciate. And to keep moving forward. And once that truth settled into their heart, everything changed. The fear softened. The pressure disappeared. The confusion faded. And peace took its place. Because your heart needs this right now, because peace isn't the absence of questions. Peace is the confidence that you can continue growing even when questions remain. Your soulmate had finally discovered that confidence.